First Coast's most accurate forecast from the First Coast News Weather Team, certified by Weather Rate, sponsored by AC Designs.
Good afternoon, folks. Tim, we are back.
We are. Welcome. It's good to, I've missed you. You've been down there at the Clay County Fair so much.
Well, so they actually just gave me one of the stalls in with the rest of the steers. The steer show is tonight, so they thought I looked very similar and just tossed me into one of them.
Gotcha. So 4-H is kind of taking care of you down there?
Yep, pretty much.
Hey, can I also add to this beautiful day? I just found out that a new Deegan has been born.
All right.
A great nephew, Brock the Viking, just born just moments ago. 8 pounds, 3 ounces. Bravo.
Welcome, Brock.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff. And what nephew is this now, or great nephew? How many do you have?
Oh, my. Let's see.
Can you keep track?
So that's a great question because we just added another one. So if I go to the different kids.
Do you have enough to field a football team?
I think if you count the nephews and the niece, great nephews and great nieces, we're up to about 10 now.
So they're up. The Jags could draft them potentially this year, is what you're saying.
Yeah, good point. Very good point.
They could probably use them.
Yeah.
So happy news there for Tim and his family. Some happy news if you're outside at all too, Tim. We got sunny skies, a little windy.
Yeah,
Winds
starting
have
to pick
picked
up, starting to get
here
some gusts to 25, but otherwise, well, there's your great satellite picture showing where the skies are blue. So dry, despite the fact that, wow, look at that stuff blow up there. It's at about probably 70, 75 degrees longitude. It's just blowing up.
So the Bahamas had some action earlier today. But yeah, a lot of dry air in place. I think I got the dew points popping up here next. Yeah, especially you live inland at all. Coastal areas, a little bit, more humid. But overall, I mean, still not humid by any means. I mean, it is dry out there. You're not working up nearly as much of a sweat as you would have been this time last week, Tim. I mean,
no, and
upper 80s. And
yeah, but now if you do, you get that evaporative cooling going. But yeah, let's briefly talk about that heat. I've only done this unofficially, and maybe somebody from the weather team can back this up. But I think if we go back and look at the first 6 days of any April in Jacksonville's history, that was the hottest 6-day start we've had. Every day wasn't a record. But every day, I think, was within a degree.
Yeah, as of on Friday, we were still the warmest. But, yeah, we hit a record on Sunday.
And then we had 3 days in a row of 90 at the airport.
Yeah, so, I'm sure that still holds true because as of at least last Friday, we were at the warmest start to April ever.
Okay.
And, again, that's specifically at the Jacksonville airport. But it was a scorching start to the month. I think a very much needed cool down here now, at least for the people who are not originally from here.
Yes.
The non-native Floridians perhaps don't want the heat early.
Yeah, I think even your natives, at least here in Northeast Florida, Southeast Georgia, that getting a streak of 6 days in a row within a degree or two of 90, that's a little early. Especially as you noted, it wasn't like it was almost 90 and 50 degree dew point. I mean, it was almost 90 and 65 to 70 degree dew point.
Yeah, we had real feels like 95, 96.
It was truly like June. It was truly like June. I don't remember an April like that. So. Yeah, and maybe for some people this feels really cool, especially with the wind, but this is not all that far away from the average temperatures for April. It's just way below where it was.
Yeah, our average high right now is 78? And our average low, I believe, is 55, so pretty close to where we should be. A little breezy and, got some gusts up there. We had gusts upwards of about 30 earlier this afternoon, correct, Tim?
Yeah.
Andy's tuning into the stream over there. Glad you're tuning in, Andy. Welcome.
We have a whole team today. We have Andy and Bella.
Yes, Bella's the woman behind the curtain today. Andy is
In fact, Ella's the one working, to be honest.
Yeah, well, he is our live
Andy's just sitting.
Our live audience.
Yeah.
So when we hold up the signs, you clap and applaud.
See if he actually listens to us. We should give Andy, like with a minute to go, then give a quiz to Andy to see if he's listening to us.
We should. Okay, let's do that. So pay attention.
It's probably not being fair because Andy does a lot of work.
If I don't know what we'll give you if you get the correct answer, but we'll give you an extra 5-minute break. How about that?
He got a clock. Come on.
This is true. All right. At least we'll get back to the forecast here. Tonight, the dry air temperature is going to start to drop off pretty quickly post-sunset. So I think this probably underdoes how cool will be later on.
That's why I use the term brisk. You know,
Yeah.
if you're maybe out walking the dog after 8 o'clock or so, sun goes down, temperatures in the 60s with the breeze. But it's interesting, isn't it, that temperatures then really don't drop. They'll drop after the sun sets. But for a lot of areas, unless you're well inland, it really doesn't drop a whole lot after about 9 or 10 o'clock, obviously because of the wind off those warmer waters now.
Yeah, I was going to say, since I'm the 11, I do the 11 o'clock show, whatever the temperatures are at 11 p.m., they might just drop 1 or 2 more degrees until dawn and sunrise tomorrow morning. So I think that's a fair assumption.
Therefore, what's going to happen tomorrow morning, Ross?
It's iffy. We'll have a chance at least for some showers rolling on in.
At the very least, I guess the point I want to make is that as beautiful as it is this afternoon, outside of maybe for those who don't like the wind, but it's dry. I do know, like people in my household, unless they're really watching the forecast, they're not going to think there might be showers tomorrow. So, as Ross alluded to, we're sort of having a hard time figuring out just exactly how many of us will get the showers, but at the very least, I feel like we should be telling folks, don't be surprised. There will be some showers out there, right? Early.
Yeah, and we ramped this up a lot.
Yeah.
Even when, within the past 2 hours or so. This time yesterday, we weren't really expecting much with regards to showers.
Saying isolated and wondering, are we overdoing it?
Yeah. And now here this afternoon, we've increased those chances to 35, 40%, coverage area that could see some showers. So early morning near dawn, that onshore easterly flow comes in. Coastal things, at least in the morning, it does look like the showers will gradually drift inland and westward throughout the day. But as you get into the early to middle part of the afternoon, some peaks of sunshine, some heating, it does look like wherever that boundary is still at could perhaps enhance a little bit more shower activity there in the middle of the day as well.
Do we want to get into right now why this is such an iffy forecast, or do you want to wait until you bring up a weather map? It's up to you.
Oh, by all means, go ahead.
And I know you're going to add to this, but first of all, I think one of the tough things about the forecast is we just don't have as much data just offshore as we do over land, and so there's still a question about how well are the computer models handling it now. The computer models handle this scenario. Maybe we can call it an inverted trough, much better than they used to 43 years ago. But still, they have a tougher time. In the sort of pulled out view, Ross talked about the low pressure system. It even has some gale force gusts, so I'm going to call it a gale developing near the Bahamas. So that's forming about 300 miles to our southeast. But as what we think will be a line maybe of showers forming and head from east to west with the wind, but that's all the while the main storm system that's causing all of this to form is going to go in the opposite direction. In fact, pretty quickly. And at the same time, not only is that surface low going to move away, but the temperatures at about 18,000 feet are actually going to warm a little bit. And so that would be anti the thought of, we might get some showers. And in addition to that, instead of it being a lighter, at say 18,000 feet, winds out of the north or northwest, it's going to be almost due from the west to the east, which means right above the tops of these, we call them shallow top showers, if that makes sense, that everything above that would say no, right? Dry air, sort of stable conditions coming in. In other words, maybe this is another way I should put it, Ross. If we were in Oklahoma City, we could have the same wind pattern, right? But I don't think we'd be talking about isolated showers.
Yeah.
But that marine layer develops its own weather, especially now that the ocean is beginning to warm a little bit at 70 to 74 degrees, depending on where you are. And so that can raise that dew point down low. And so that marine layer, just enough to bring in some showers. And again, although the models handle it better than they used to, still there is iffiness to it. That is for sure.
And you mentioned even before we came on the stream about it's still going to have to erode some of that dry air that we have in place. I mean, dew points are still very, very low. So that's why I do think, at least the coastal areas where dew points are slightly higher, a much better chance. You just heard Tim talk about that, that marine layer. But inland locations that have dew points in the 40s right now.
Yeah.
Although models are showing some of these showers, to make it that far west, I wouldn't be surprised if that just evaporates before hitting the ground.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Or if it just kind of falls apart and dissipates to begin with, and nothing.
Anybody
falls.
who's their own weather freak, and I say this as a compliment, that if you are watching the skies early in the morning, it will be interesting to see the cumulus clouds and see if they sort of almost lose their surface base, that you see some virga coming out, but maybe doesn't produce, at least not for a while.
And temperature-wise, Tim, though, you expect maybe perhaps some breaks in the sun there, especially if you're not in any of those clouds, or even later in the day, perhaps if that layer or that line moves a little bit further west, temperatures will warm up at least a little bit more here than what we saw today.
Yeah, because certainly the atmosphere above about 5,000 feet is definitely going to warm up. And then comes Friday, and just by looking at those words, you might think, without the wind direction, you might think, oh, okay, so things starting late tonight or tomorrow morning will just expand. But no, this is a totally different weather system, right?
Yeah, completely
different.
different.
There it is, nice weather map.
Yeah, so there's kind of, I don't know what you want to really call it, Tim. I'm kind of calling it an Alberta Clipper. I know that's probably not.
But a Canadian low that's just zipping along.
Yes, it's very quick moving. It's going to drop down across the Mississippi and Tennessee river valleys throughout the day tomorrow. There's a round of severe weather potentially across Tennessee, northern Mississippi, and Alabama tomorrow, and then it will eventually make its way towards us on Friday. So we do, at the very least, expect a line of some scattered showers, perhaps some rumbles of thunder and isolated thunderstorms. This is kind of just a broad sense, kind of from I-10 southward. I think perhaps might have the best chance to see some of those storms, primarily just because the timing of it, I expect it to be along and or south of I-10 by after lunchtime and into the afternoon, when we get some of that daytime heating and peak heating of the day. That might just give rise to a few stronger updrafts there, through your Friday afternoon. Does, though, look to clear out by Friday evening, Tim, or at least late Friday evening. So I'd say if you have dinner plans or evening plans on Friday, you should be all right. But the afternoon, you might have to play by ear a little bit, depending on when this line kind of rolls on through. Yeah,
there's a good graphic there showing the potential energy. Plus, folks farther south, if they do get that sun, then at least they are getting a brief period of the flow off the Gulf, so maybe they have a little more surface moisture.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm also thinking if you have to get some outdoor work done on Friday, by no means will it be an all-day washout. I mean, I would just plan on maybe a 30 or 45-minute, rain delay if you have to get some work done. But we can't rule out the fact there might be some lightning. We're not expecting damaging winds.
And we talked a little bit about this off-air, kind of what are some of the limiting factors with regards to this, because we saw the front. Was that yesterday? No, Monday. That front came in. We saw severe weather. Right. I want to stress and reiterate, we're not expecting anything like that with regards to Friday's front. Firstly, I don't think we're going to have as much moisture at the surface.
I think that's going to be the big difference.
Yeah, so the lack of low-level moisture, lower dew points, so that's not going to give as much juice and as much fuel to any storms that might develop along that frontal boundary. So that's the first thing. Secondly, heights are going to drop pretty significantly once that drops in, right, Tim?
Right. But that is what makes it the forecasting a little more of a challenge. But I agree with you. These storms will not be as strong as you and Robert were tracking a tornado then on Monday evening. But that was a squall line that had been fully developed for days and was coming at us, and was one of those classic events that we have where we know it's coming, we know it's going to be strong. The question is, how much will it weaken before it gets to the first coast? In fact, we both talked about the fact it was interesting that just about as the Severe Storms Forecast Office dropped the tornado watch, you all here were watching storms become reinvigorated, and then sure enough, a tornado warning was issued. So this one, I don't think we're going to see a mature squall line heading our way. We'll probably get some hint though on tomorrow afternoon. We'll probably see some thunderstorms develop over, as you call rightly so, sort of mid-Dixie, right?
Yep.
And that'll be a clue, I think, to what we're going to get on Friday. We should not get as much on Friday as what they're going to get on Thursday. So there's the timing coming at us from the northwest. So notice there could be maybe some lingering showers left over from that late Thursday afternoon squall line over Dixie, and that's why Ross has maybe as early as 8. And then we think for the rest of us, especially from noon on, it's going to be a question of how much heat will reinvigorate that line or that boundary that's going to be along with that wind shift.
Yeah, that again, besides the moisture, is probably the other limiting factor. How much heating do we get? How much energy develops to energize some of these storms? Perhaps not a whole lot. So at the very least, expect some scattered showers at the most. Some isolated thunderstorms might see wind gusts 30 to 40 at the most. I don't expect anything more than that, Tim. Do you?
No, I don't.
So,
but I think enough to where if people are planning, just fun afternoon and even evening events that you might call it kind of gusty.
Yeah.
Especially if you're thinking, I don't know, about being out with the kids or maybe being on a rooftop.
Or on a boat somewhere Friday afternoon.
Yeah, probably not a good day on a small boat. Not really.
Yeah, no.
I mean, unless you're a sailor. But if you're just out there for a tranquil afternoon, it's not going to be.
And it's going to be a windy day prior to that too. So
that's
some
a great
choppy
point.
waters.
That's a great point. In fact, as we look ahead to the weekend, Saturday looks beautiful. But if you are a boater, I'd rather be out there Sunday afternoon versus Saturday afternoon. I think there'll be less wind Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, you got those northwest winds coming in on Saturday. I think the key takeaway this weekend, despite the overall cooler, temperatures, low 70s Saturday, mid 70s on Sunday, are going to be those morning lows.
Yeah, they will be. Some will love it. I'll love it. Some might say it's a little too chilly. But yeah, we're even inland areas may see 40s on Saturday, but Sunday I think widespread 40s around the area before we warm back up.
And I was just going to say, Sunday morning areas west of Highway 301, you could be seeing 42, 41, some very, very dry air in place. And the slightly calmer winds out of the north there on Sunday should help those temperatures to dip down a little bit, but warms up rather quickly. So this actually kind of reminds me of forecasting in Oklahoma a little bit, especially before you get the huge Gulf Stream Gulf flow of moisture coming up in for storm season out there. A little bit more of an arid, not fully desert climate, but you have those huge
big temperatures,
diurnal ranges or fluctuations between your morning low and your afternoon high. So, a 30-degree change is pretty big, and we got more than that.
Right, you're going to show them a big one on Monday, but I do want to say one more thing about the weekend, and that is that, in my opinion, this weekend is why the Clay County has their fair in April, because we just have I think that's just beautiful fair weather,
Now, you would have thought it should have been like that last weekend, and I was melting down there at the fair.
I bet you were, cowboy.
Yes. But you heard Tim allude to, Monday,
Look at
Tuesday.
That temperature spread.
Yeah, you go from 48 Monday morning up to 84. And then, similarly for Tuesday as well.
I'm curious to see what Andy's going to wear. What does Andy wear on a day like that? What kind of layers?
What is the perfect weather for Andy? Like temperature-wise that you want to...
Saturday, okay, all right.
So that's not too chilly for you?
No, that's perfect.
Okay.
Which is interesting because aren't you a South Florida boy? No. Central.
Yeah, he's like what, Daytona Beach? Yeah.
Okay.
Can't you tell from his hair? Daytona Beach? And then should we talk a little bit about just the rain chances next Tuesday and Wednesday,
Yeah, for those making plans, because you know what Andy does like to hear us talk about, the next
big weather maker.
Yeah. And so right now we feel confident, right, Ross, that yet another strong front is going to come in here with dropping upper level heights late Tuesday and early Wednesday. But it looks like, again, the air is going to be too dry for any type of widespread event. And it looks like for anybody who has outdoor plans Tuesday or Wednesday, at least this far out, most of it would happen after sunset and before sunrise. But again, it's far out. It's 6 to 7 days. So I'm curious to see if our timing ends up holding just like that. But
yeah, I think the key takeaway from that is, if you're on the roads at all late Tuesday night, might see a few showers around, or early Wednesday morning, for your Wednesday morning commute next week, might have some wet roadways initially in the morning. But it does look like it won't be a whole lot, as Tim said, pretty dry air in place. A little bit of a temperature drop behind it, at least for the afternoon highs. Your morning lows will be fairly similar, but afternoon temperatures might just be a little bit cooler with that height drop there from Tuesday into Wednesday. So
now I do want to add something, and this is a serious note, although it used to be a much bigger deal when we used to go live. We used to go live to the post office at just before 11 p.m. on April 15th. because of the
For
people that
tax
would
day?
be lined up. Of course, not as many people do that anymore. But I don't think weather's going to give you an excuse. You better get it done.
Yeah, what day is that next?
April 15th, Ross.
That's next Tuesday.
Have your taxes done by April 15th.
My taxes have been done for
there you
weeks.
go. There you
now
go.
I do know evening anchor Anthony Austin. He's not done his taxes yet.
I can't
So
believe
that's
you
on his
said that in
agenda.
front
I
of the
probably shouldn't be
IRS.
saying that out here. But
Are we finishing at 2022 or 2220?
22.
22-22.
Oh, okay. So we still have
So
time.
you're changing it up on us now a little bit.
It's the same.
I thought it was 22-20 is what he said before.
No, he did say 22. I got it back.
Well, we
I'm
also
sorry.
said, Tim, at the start of this that we were going to ask Andy a question
Yes.
to see if he's actually been listening, since he
Yes.
did pull the stream up on his phone.
So what should we ask him?
Give him a minute.
How about
Well,
how much of the area
Sure.
will probably receive a shower or thunderstorm on Friday?
40%.
Close.
But wrong.
Close.
Where's the
But
red X
wrong.
that they have on
Come
like
on,
America's
be fair
Got
to him.
Talent?
Let's for us meteorologists, if we're close, we're good. Close but wrong.
How about what time frame would Jacksonville maybe see some of those showers and storms on Friday, Andy? What's the time frame? I want-
3 to 6.
Okay. Close but close. Close.
So I think
Gotta give
we've
him
discovered
close.
that
Andy, he's tough on you, man.
Andy just
He's not going to give you close.
I think
he's
he
not
just-
playing.
he
He's
just
not.
sits
You're not
in-
playing horseshoes with Andy, are you?
no. I mean, he just sits in
Gotta
here and
get the bullseye.
he's the guy who we crack jokes off
Andy
of.
can't
and-
wait for this to be over. Folks, we do enjoy the fact that you join us. If you ever have weather questions, please send them because we want to talk about what you want to talk about.
And we'll be back in here tomorrow, 4 p.m. Bright and bushy-eyed and tailed as always, I guess. So that is all for us here today.
And maybe Bella will be playing guitar for us tomorrow afternoon. Who
Yeah, we do
knows?
need a little outro music here. Outroing out with the rain chances tomorrow and on Friday, so plenty to talk about over the next 2 days. But we are done for now, so enjoy the rest of your evening. And take care, folks.